The small town of Ocilla, Georgia, was never the same after the night of October 22, 2005. Tara Grinstead, a radiant high school history teacher with a crown of beauty queen titles, vanished without a trace. That night, the air was heavy with anticipation of the Miss Sweet Potato pageant, an event Tara had attended. She was the epitome of Southern grace, charismatic, dedicated, and loved by her students. But by the next morning, Tara was gone, and all that remained were questions that would haunt Ocilla for years. Tara Grinstead, a 30-year-old teacher, beloved by her students, known for her warm smile and nurturing spirit. She had a history of competing in beauty pageants and was preparing for a future in education. Marcus Harper, Tara's ex-boyfriend, a former cop turned Army Ranger. His relationship with Tara had ended on uncertain terms, leaving a trail of lingering emotions and suspicions. Anthony Vickers, a former student who had developed an infatuation with Tara, which had led to tense confrontations and restraining orders. Ryan Duke, a quiet and unassuming former student who would later be charged with Tara's murder, a revelation that would send shockwaves through the community. Bo Dukes, a friend of Ryan Duke, later implicated in helping to dispose of Tara's body, his calm demeanor hiding dark secrets. The Disappearance, Tara's house, night. The soft of Tara's favorite CD plays as she unwinds from the day's events. She had attended a beauty pageant earlier and returned home around 11 p.m. As she sits in her living room, flipping through photos, the phone rings. Tara, smiling as she answers. "Hello?" There's no response, just a faint sound of breathing. She frowns and hangs up, chalking it up to a wrong number. Little does she know, this is the last normal moment she'll ever experience. Tara's house. Early morning. Tara's car sits in the driveway, a silent witness to the events of the previous night. The house is eerily still. Neighbors begin to stir, but there is no sign of Tara. Neighbor. To another neighbor. "I didn't see her come out for her run this morning. That's not like her." The search begins. Police station. Morning. Sheriff Billy Hancock paces the floor, the phone glued to his ear. "Sheriff Hancock, we've got a missing person on our hands. Tara Grinstead, you know her, everyone does. We need to get out there, canvass the area, no stone unturned." As officers knock on doors and distribute flyers, Tara's friends and family grow increasingly frantic. Her mother, Faye Grinstead, clutches Tara's photograph to her chest, her eyes filled with worry. "Faye," voice breaking. "She would never just leave without telling someone. Something's wrong. I can feel it." A town on edge days turn into weeks, then months. The town of Ocilla is gripped by fear and rumors. Every tree, every shadow seems to whisper Tara's name. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation takes over, marking Tara's case as their largest investigation to date. Billboards with her face line the highways, but answers remain elusive. The glove Tara's yard, day. A blue latex glove lies hidden beneath the autumn leaves, the first clue in a case that seems to have none. It's a small, almost insignificant piece of evidence, yet it holds a world of secrets. Forensic teams swarm the scene, but the glove's origins remain a mystery, taunting them. Investigator, holding the glove with tweezers. Could be nothing, or it could be everything. The glove will later reveal DNA, but without a match, it's a dead end. Months turn into years, and the case grows colder. A break in the case, Ryan Duke's house, night. 2017. Ryan Duke sits at his kitchen table, hands shaking. He picks up the phone and dials. Ryan Duke, voice barely a whisper. "I need to tell you something about Tara Grinstead." This confession breaks the case wide open. In February 2017, more than a decade after Tara's disappearance, Ryan Duke was arrested for her murder, and Bo Dukes for helping dispose of her body. The town that had been holding its breath for 12 long years finally exhales, but the relief is bittersweet. The reality of Tara's fate is a wound that time will not easily heal. Tara's legacy lives on in the halls of Irwin County High School, where her students still remember the teacher who was more than just a beauty queen. As the sun sets over Ocilla, the search for justice continues. A reminder that even in the quietest of towns, shadows can linger long after the sun has set. Investigation timeline, crime and unsolved genre, dramatic expansion. Initial evidence, Tara's yard, early morning. The morning sun creeps over Ocilla, casting long shadows across Tara Grinstead's quiet neighborhood. Investigators comb through the yard, the sound of rustling leaves underfoot punctuating the stillness. Sheriff Billy Hancock stands over a patch of grass, his brow furrowed. An officer approaches, holding a small plastic evidence bag. Officer, holding up the bag. Sheriff, we found something. A latex glove. Hancock takes the bag, staring at the glove. It's blue, nondescript, yet chilling in its simplicity. Sheriff Hancock, get it to the lab, DNA, fingerprints, anything. The glove is sent off for analysis. Days later, the results come back. Male DNA, unknown. It's the first solid lead, but without a match in any database, it's a clue that leads nowhere, a cruel reminder of how close and yet how far they are from answers. GBI office, day. Investigators huddle around a table, a map of Ocilla spread out before them, marked with red dots representing search areas and leads. Lead investigator. The DNA doesn't match anyone on our radar. We've checked friends, family, co-workers, no hits. Forensic expert, frustrated. Whoever left this glove, he's not in the system. We're back to square one. The room falls silent. It's a small town, everyone knows everyone, and yet this one piece of evidence refuses to connect Tara's disappearance to anyone they know. False leads and hoaxes. Sheriff's Office, 2009. Years have passed, and the case file grows thicker, weighed down by false leads and dead ends. Sheriff Hancock sits at his desk, staring at his computer screen in disbelief. Sheriff Hancock, reading out loud. Some guy on the internet claims to be a serial killer, says he killed Tara. The deputies exchange uneasy glances. It's not the first time someone has claimed responsibility, but this one is different. A man has posted a series of videos online, each more disturbing than the last, hinting at a connection to Tara's disappearance. Sheriff Hancock, get GBI on this. Track him down. We can't afford to ignore anything. Days later, the man is apprehended. Under questioning, he crumbles, revealing that it was all a sick hoax, a desperate bid for attention. Hancock slams his fist on the table. Sheriff Hancock, people think this is a game, but Tara's out there and we're no closer to finding her. The hoax is a bitter setback. As the internet buzzes with rumors and theories, the real investigation seems to slip further into the background. Podcast Influence Studio, 2016. In Atlanta, Payne Lindsey, a young filmmaker with a fascination for unsolved mysteries, sits in a cluttered studio. He's surrounded by microphones, soundboards, and a stack of old newspapers, each headline screaming Tara's name. Payne Lindsey, into the microphone. This is Up and Vanished, a podcast about the disappearance of Tara Grinstead. We're going back to Ocilla, Georgia, to see what went wrong. As Payne delves deeper, he interviews locals, old classmates, and Tara's friends. His podcast begins to gain traction, drawing thousands of listeners who become invested in Tara's story. The town of Ocilla, once resigned to the mystery, starts to talk again. Payne sits with Dr. Maurice Godwin, a private investigator who had worked on Tara's case for years. Payne Lindsey, why did this case go cold for so long? Dr. Maurice Godwin, thoughtfully, too many leads that went nowhere. But sometimes, all it takes is one person to shake the tree and see what falls. Payne's podcast does just that. Calls flood the GBI tip line. New witnesses come forward, recounting stories they had never told. secrets they had kept. The renewed interest sparks a fresh wave of energy in the investigation, leading to the first major break in over a decade. Breakthrough GBI Office 2017. Investigators huddle around a desk, a stack of new evidence files piled high. Lead investigator reading a tip. "We've got a confession. Ryan Duke, he says he killed her." There's a stunned silence, the weight of 11 years of uncertainty crashing down at once. They had finally found him. The man whose DNA matched the latex glove, the man who knew the truth about Tara's final moments. Lead investigator. "Let's bring him in." The room buzzes with a renewed sense of purpose. As the case that once seemed destined to remain unsolved finally edges closer to resolution, the town of Ocilla watches and waits, hoping that Tara's story will finally have an ending and that the shadows lingering over their small town will lift at last. The Tip GBI Office, February 2017. It's a typical day at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation office, where piles of cold case files line the walls. Investigator David Quinn sits at his desk sifting through another dead-end lead on the Grinstead case. A phone rings, breaking the monotony. Quinn here. Anonymous caller, voice shaky. "I need to talk about Tara Grinstead. I know who did it." Quinn leans forward, pen poised over his notepad. "Quinn, go on." The caller hesitates, the weight of the confession hanging in the air. Anonymous caller. "Ryan Duke. He killed her." Quinn's grip tightens on the phone. The name is familiar, but not in the context of a suspect. Ryan Duke, a quiet kid, a former student at Irwin County High School, Tara's own school. "Quinn, how do you know this?" Anonymous caller. "He told me, he and Bo Dukes. They hid her body, burned it." The line goes dead. Quinn stares at the receiver, the enormity of the revelation sinking in. The arrest of Ryan Duke, Ryan Duke's house, early morning. Ryan Duke sits at his kitchen table, head in his hands. The knock on the door is sharp, insistent. He doesn't move. GBI agent. "Ryan Duke, open up. We have a warrant for your arrest." The door bursts open and agents flood the small house. Ryan stands, his face pale, eyes hollow. He knows why they're here. Agent, reading from a paper. "Ryan Duke, you're under arrest for the murder of Tara Grinstead." Ryan's eyes flicker with something, fear, regret, or maybe just resignation. He offers no resistance as they cuff his hands behind his back. Interrogation room, GBI office. Ryan sits across from investigator Quinn, the cold metal table between them. Quinn watches him closely, every movement, every twitch of his eyes. Quinn. "Ryan, you need to tell us what happened." Ryan stares down at his hands, fingers trembling slightly. Ryan Duke. "It was a burglary. I didn't mean to. She caught me in the house. I panicked." Quinn. "And Bo Dukes? Where does he fit into this?" Ryan takes a deep breath, his voice breaking. Ryan Duke. "He helped me get rid of her. We burned her in the pecan orchard." Quinn leans back, the room closing in around them. They've heard confessions before, but this one, after so many years, feels different. It's not just about solving a case. It's about Tara, about the town that's been holding its breath for 12 long years. Arrest of Bo Dukes. Family farm. Day agents approach Bo Dukes, who's leaning against his truck, watching them with a calm, almost defiant expression. He knows what's coming. He's known since the moment Ryan confessed. GBI agent. Bo Dukes. "You're under arrest for concealing the death of Tara Grinstead, tampering with evidence, and lying to law enforcement." Bo doesn't flinch. He simply nods, as if this moment has been playing out in his mind for years. Bo Dukes. "I knew this day would come." They cuff him, leading him away from the fields that had hidden so many secrets for so long. The aftermath. GBI press conference room, day. The room is packed with reporters, cameras flashing. Sheriff Hancock stands at the podium, the weight of 12 years visible on his face. Sheriff Hancock. Today, we announce the arrests of Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes in connection with the murder of Tara Grinstead. This case has been a long and painful journey for Tara's family, for her friends, and for the entire community of Ocilla. As Hancock speaks, images flash on the screen behind him. Tara's smiling face, the latex glove, the pecan orchard where her remains were believed to have been burned. Sheriff Hancock, we hope that these arrests will bring some measure of peace, though we know the road to healing will be long. Tara's story will never be forgotten. The room is silent, the gravity of the moment settling in. Tara Grinstead, the beloved teacher and beauty queen, had finally found her voice again. The town of Ocilla, forever changed, takes its first steps toward closure, knowing that justice, though delayed, has not been denied. Bo Dukes' trial. 2019. Irwin County Courthouse, day. The courtroom is packed, the air thick with tension. Bo Dukes sits at the defense table, dressed in a dark suit, his expression calm but strained. The judge's gavel echoes, calling the room to order. Tara's family sits in the front row, their faces a mixture of sorrow and quiet resolve. Judge, Mr. Dukes, you stand accused of covering up the murder of Tara Grinstead, tampering with evidence, and making false statements. How do you plead? Bo looks up, his eyes meeting the judge's with a resigned look. Bo Dukes, guilty, Your Honor. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. The judge continues, outlining the charges in a voice that carries the weight of 12 years of unanswered questions. Judge, given the severity of your actions, this court sentences you to 25 years in prison. Tara's mother, Faye Grinstead, closes her eyes, tears streaming down her cheeks. Justice for Tara is finally taking shape, but the wounds run deep. Bo is led away in handcuffs, his expression unreadable. A man who had finally faced the consequences of his choices. Ryan Duke's trial, 2022, Irwin County Courthouse, 3 years later. The room is once again filled to capacity. This time, all eyes are on Ryan Duke, who sits silently at the defense table, looking thinner and more gaunt than during his arrest. The delay in his trial had only added to the town's anxiety, and now the moment of truth has arrived. Defense attorney, addressing the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecution has no direct evidence linking Ryan Duke to the murder of Tara Grinstead. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, only the words of a coerced confession and a community desperate for closure. The prosecutor, ADA Megan Andrews, steps forward, her gaze steely and determined. ADA Andrews. Ryan Duke admitted to the crime. He told law enforcement he broke into Tara Grinstead's home, panicked, and killed her. He led us to the location where he and Bo Dukes disposed of her remains. The only thing more damning than his words are the actions he took to cover it up. The jury deliberates, each minute dragging on like an eternity. Finally, they return with a verdict. The foreman stands, a slip of paper trembling in his hand. Foreman, on the charge of murder, we find the defendant, Ryan Duke, not guilty. A collective gasp fills the room. Ryan's eyes close, his face a mixture of relief and disbelief. But the foreman isn't done. Foreman, on the charge of concealing a death, we find the defendant guilty. Judge, Mr. Duke, for your role in concealing the death of Tara Grinstead, you are hereby sentenced to 10 years in prison. Ryan nods, accepting his fate. He turns to his lawyer, who places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, but the victory is hollow. For Tara's family, it's a bittersweet moment. Ryan may not have been found guilty of her murder, but his part in her disappearance and the years of uncertainty cannot be denied. The aftermath courthouse steps. Tara's family and friends gather outside, surrounded by a sea of reporters. Faye Grinstead, flanked by supporters, steps up to the microphones. She takes a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Faye Grinstead, today's verdict may not have been everything we hoped for, but we are grateful that some justice has been served. Tara was a light in this world, and that light was taken from us too soon. We hope that her story reminds everyone to never give up, to keep fighting for the truth. The cameras flash, capturing a moment that will be broadcast far beyond Ocilla, a community forever changed, seeking healing after years of uncertainty. As the crowd disperses, there's a sense of closure, albeit incomplete. Tara Grinstead's case, though not entirely solved in the eyes of some, has left a legacy of resilience, a testament to the unyielding pursuit of justice in the face of overwhelming odds. Classroom at Irwin County High School, day. A history class buzzes with quiet chatter. A portrait of Tara hangs on the wall, a small but enduring tribute to the teacher who once stood at the front of the room. A student glances up at the photo, inspired by the woman who left a mark not just on Ocilla, but on the hearts of everyone who ever knew her.